Hello, I'm Lorene Sauro, and today I'm going to just talk about what it means to underfeed your gut and why this concept of clean eating isn't everything it needs to be. So that's what we're talking about today, and I think you're going to like this because if you've suffered from food sensitivities or any kind of intolerances that make it difficult for you to enjoy your food, then this is going to help you understand why and therefore offer you a solution too. So let's look at the three signs that indicate that your gut is underfed, even if you're eating a clean diet. So there are lots of people out there who eat well, they follow good nutrition advice. I've met many of them, I've worked with them, I've understood some of their issues health-wise, despite the fact that they are following what someone would consider a good diet. What they're finding is the resilience continues to narrow. This could mean a lot of things, but for most, the one that's most obvious is that they have developed some food sensitivities and they seem to be getting more. So this reactivity is increasing instead of the food being regulated properly by all the parts in the GI tract and the microbes that live there. The gut is not just about training, just about digestion. So a lot of people think that's what's going to be the normal symptoms. They may be there, they may be not. But they really need to see is that the gut is a key training ground for immune tolerance and adaptability. So it's going to infect the entire body. Sign number one. All right. So this is going to indicate that you're underfeeding your gut. You're relying on the same safe foods. What do we mean by safe foods? Safe foods are foods that you deem are safe. You find that you don't react to them, therefore, it's okay for you to eat them. You're not going to have any suffering as a result. So, what does underfed really mean? Underfeeding of the gut is not about calories or portion size or eating better. Underfeeding the gut is all about low diversity of microbial signals, inconsistent exposure to foods, and reduced immune training over time. And I want you to think about that. Okay? When have you ever had any kind of discussion like this about food and what it should be doing for you? Diets often narrow after symptoms or testing. So somebody gets an IgG test and finds out that they have these IgG antibodies to certain foods. They think that means they're sensitive to them. Unfortunately, that test does not reflect Treg cells, and Treg cells are what determine whether you react to something or not. So if you have sufficient, it doesn't matter how many IgG antibodies you have. If you've had this test and you've discovered that you don't react to any of the foods you were told you were sensitive to, it's because of your Treg cells. Mainly, most people go by symptoms, so they develop symptoms after they eat certain foods, and now they're starting to get the picture that something's not kosher. Foods are chosen for their predictability. So once you find you're reacting to things, you want to make sure you know what you're getting every time you eat. So you're basically picking what you know you can supposedly trust. And it's not about exposure, and exposure is what the microbes need. The immune system receives fewer regulatory cues from the microbes as a result of this because they're not getting enough stimulation and they're not getting enough variety. So safety does not build tolerance, and this is what we're all about. So what happens when the diet's narrow? Microbial signaling becomes repetitive, so that your microbes can only do the same thing over and over again because there are other microbes who could be doing other things, but they're not getting fed. Immune tolerance is no longer reinforced. Adaptation capacity slowly declines, so you find that you recover slower. Everything is not going to be working as efficiently as it can. And the result, increased sensitivity over time and less ability to handle change. Sign number two, the tolerance breaks down under stress or change. So stress, travel, illness, routine changes of any kind trigger symptoms. These events do not create the problem, they expose it. So these have an effect on how your gut microbes operate. And because they're being underfed, they cannot deliver what they should be delivering under these circumstances. And as a result, symptoms appear. So the key idea here is a resilient system adapts, an underfed system reacts. So you are looking at the difference between resilience and fragility. A resilient system adapts to variability. It recovers after disruption. So if you get sick, you recover well, right? If you're trying to repair, an injury, you recover and regain, full use of whatever it was you injured. And so that's the disruption. And so the recovery is the full repair. It maintains tolerance so that you can, not react to things you don't want to react to. Whereas an underfed system depends on ideal conditions, reacts quickly under pressure, so you'll notice it right away. Exposure triggers reactivity instead of adaptation. Adding foods feels uncomfortable or destabilizing in this circumstance, and removing foods will bring temporary relief. Because if you have developed a sensitivity, then you, of course, are going to not be reacting when you don't eat it. However, your progress stalls despite effort. So there's an important distinction here. Reactivity doesn't automatically mean intolerance. So why removal doesn't rebuild tolerance? It's not like, okay, I'll stop eating it for a while, then my body will calm down and it'll get used to it again because I've stopped eating it for a while. No, that doesn't work. Removal reduces regulatory signaling. So signals have stopped being received by microbes that are going to tell the microbes what to do. The immune system receives fewer training inputs, so it does not become resilient. Avoidance of foods preserves the reactivity, so you will continue to react to those foods you're avoiding. And so the key takeaway here is relief is not the same as resilience. So resilience means you can tolerate it. Relief means you don't have symptoms when you don't eat it. Immune tolerance is exposure dependent. Repeated, consistent signals teach regulation. Absence of exposure prevents recalibration. This is why reactivity often appears after long restriction. So why do small repeated exposure matter? So why are we doing this? Large changes overwhelm regulation. Small amounts allow safe adaptation. Consistency builds familiarity. And that should be what we're considering. The guiding principle is teaspoons, not overhauls. So you're not changing your diet completely. You're not putting in a bunch of new foods all at once. You're not doing anything like that. You're going to go very, very, very slowly with very tiny amounts of foods you may be reactive to and build up the tolerance. Patterns matter more than precision. Daily patterns shape immune learning. Variety over time matters more than perfection. So this is not about eating the perfect diet. There's no such thing. The body responds to repetition, not rules. So let's reframe sensitivity. Sensitivity often reflects a lack of training. The system has not been exposed gradually enough, right? So you may say, well, I have this food all the time and then I react to it. Well, you're having too much of it at once. So you don't have enough microbes to effectively digest it well, and then you're getting the symptoms. So this is why we're talking about going with smaller amounts slowly and basically training the microbes. The gut immune system needs training, not shielding. Underfeeding the gut is rarely intentional. It happens when diets become too narrow. Exposure is avoided instead of scaled. So scaling is, how starting with a very small dose and working up. The focus stays on control rather than adaptation. You can eat clean and still underfeed your gut. Feeding the gut means diversity of signals. So you're going to eat a wide variety of foods. So there's a number of signals being given to the microbes so they can adapt and provide us with what we need to function well. We're going to give it consistent exposure. So this isn't a one-time thing to try this food in a small amount. No, they're going to get the small amounts of these foods that have been an issue or that the person has not been eating. They may not have a sensitivity to the food, but you still want to go slow when you're introducing new foods so they don't develop one. So you want small, repeated inputs. This is how resilience is built. All right, if this idea of using small strategic inputs instead of restrictive diets resonates with you, I teach this approach step by step in my free training called the 4-Step Framework to Build a Resilient Gut and a Healthier You. The link is below in the description. It shows you how to feed your microbes without changing your entire diet. Wouldn't you like that? Nobody wants to be on some kind of diet that is not comfortable for them. You can learn more also about the gut balance method in the link below as well. And if you like this content, then please hit like and subscribe, and I will keep bringing you more of this type of information.